Hey everyone, welcome to this channel which is not really mine. Today we have with us a very special guest who is here to answer all the questions you have been frequently asking. Let me introduce him. He is Mr. Abhijeet Raghatate, who was the first year topper of GMC Nagpur 2018 batch with a whooping 83%. Along with him, of course, we have the owner of this channel, Mr. Anuj Pachhel. Where is he?
Here I am. Hello everyone, my name is Anuj. I am a second year medical student at GMC Nagpur. Welcome to my channel. About 2 weeks ago, I asked you guys to send me all the questions that you wanted me to answer regarding your life or whatever things that have been troubling you after you've entered medical college, and we received a lot of questions. So with me today I have my very dear friend Abhijeet Raghatate, who is actually one of the toppers of the Maharashtra University of Health Science in 2018, and he also topped our college, Government Medical College Nagpur, in first year. Basically, I have actually gone over all of the questions that have been sent and organized them into 10 or 11 types of questions that all of you really wanted to know the answers to. And the questions which I have not been answered here will be covered as individual topics, so don't worry, everything will be covered. So without further ado, let's walk over the question and answers.
There's so much information in every corner of our profession. Let's take Robbins for example, or we can take Guyton or Harrison or any other book. There's so much information in it. Do we need to know most of it, or we just need to read through the important topics?
Now I think this is a very asked questions, because I have a lot of people that come up to me and just say that Bhaiya, there are so many topics given in our book, and do we really need to mug them all up because we are not getting time and exams are coming closer. So I usually suggest people that first of all just read all the important topics that are there in your university first, and then just move on and gradually cover up all the topics that you want.
Well, see, the Guyton, Harrison, Robbins and other books like Shastri and all are all standard books written by trained medical professionals. We need to know the stuff inside them. We need to understand all the topics, all the areas covered by it. We don't need to mug them up. We need to understand and inherit the knowledge and apply it on clinical basis.
Not all the topics have equal importance as you consider on an examination basis. Readings, let's say anatomy. Not every single thing that you're going to be reading is important compared to the examination point of view, but I'm pretty sure almost everything is important, considering that you are a first year student and you should know the subject, what anatomy is and what it's trying to say. Do you agree with me?
Yep, exactly. But we should cover the whole subject as it is interlinked with the higher standards.
Yeah, exactly. Like for example, if you're going to be studying blood physiology, so there's going to be coagulation cascade, there are going to be like complement fixation and all of that, which might not be important for your studies as a first year medical student, but when you're going to be doing higher things like second year or third year, you will find that all of these things are actually coming back to you in subjects such as pathology or medicine.
Let's get to the next question. After having a hectic day of 9 to 5 in the college, it's so easy to lose the motivations to study. So how should one go about to be productive in the remaining time they have in the evening and night? Also, how many hours should one give each day to studies?
So I think this question applies to every single one of us, because after attending the 9 to 5 colleges, there is not really a lot of motivation that is left inside us so that we can continue being productive for the rest of the day. But the syllabus is so vast and the exams come so quickly that we need to focus fast.
Consider your college ends at 5 in the evening. You come home by 6, or hostel, or anywhere you live. After 6, take a break and get to studying. You have no other escape. You need to read books, you need to read a lot, you need to mug a lot. That's medical profession for you.
Yeah, I actually is putting it very nicely. I'm gonna add a little bit to it. It's okay if you don't study every day for that much as one might expect you to, like 2 or 3 hours per day. It's okay to skip a day or two, but make sure that you are consistent, because what I always tell a lot of people is that it's a chronic suffering and not an acute suffering wherein you have to read every single day and in the end you will pass and score nice marks, whereas in an acute suffering it would be like you are not reading anything and then you are like acutely reading everything and then you are passing. So my point here is actually I suggest that you study every day, and the motivation to study can be in any form. it can be the fact that you need to know a lot of stuff. You need that there might be some curiosity in you. There might be a homework given by your teachers, or there might be just a test coming up around the corner. So I think that's enough motivation. And basically, if you're lacking motivation, I suggest you can shift your place of study from one place to other, or you can also find a study partner. And I feel like discussing is a lot more important in reinforcing the connections. So if you are feeling down and if you feel like not studying, like I always suggest in a lot of my videos, discuss with your friends. That will not only help you but also help out them.
Whenever I feel down, I always remember one sentence said by Anime. He said, when you feel like giving up, think of the reason why you held on for so long.
Who said that?
I'll share it in the next video.
Okay, so I would suggest starting after 5 or 4, when you come back home, start at around like 6:30 or 7, and then just hold on for your motivation till 9 or 9:15. And if you are living in the hostel, I know a lot of you are, so there's obviously going to be that dinner break at 8 or 8:30. So you have to manage according to that. So there will be acute sessions of your studies, that means after 7 till 8, and then after 8:30 or 9 till 10 or 10:30. But I really request that chronic suffering is better than acute suffering, and because
acute suffering brings death.
Yes, like you can take the example of acute lymphoblastic leukemia. The patient will die, but if you take the chronic myeloid leukemia, he will live long.
Find the motivation in your friends. Your friend circle is really important as for your studies, your entertainment, and a lot of other stuff.
Yeah, I think friend circle is really important, because the way the other people think around you matters and reflects on what you think about everything else. So if you are hanging out with people academically interested to progress in their lives, I think everything should get sorted. And if you're not finding the motivation, change your places. Actually made a really nice video about it. You can check that out here. And again, another aspect that we consider when we are speaking about routines is,
okay, there are two kinds of routines. One is the early bird approach and one is the night owl approach. I personally like the night owl approach.
We all like the night owl approach.
So in early bird approach, the person, or as medical students, we get up early in the morning, study for 1 or 2 hours as our convenience, and then go on for our day. As for the night owl approach, we take out some of the time from our sleep and study. We have no other choice. Sorry.
But make sure you also get like at least 6 hours of sleep.
Some people do need 7.
Yeah, it's okay if you're feeling something that something is wrong about your body, like if your head is aching, or maybe you're not feeling so enthusiastic or feeling exhausted all the time. That's an indication that you need a little more sleep. So sacrifice on your study but not on your health. Coming to our next question, there are so many books on each subject out there. And the first question that comes out of all this mess is, should we follow only one gold standard book, or should we mix it with other non-gold standard books? So let's take an analogy here. Let's take, for example, physiology. We have the gold standard book of physiology, Ganong and Guyton, and we have the not so much gold standard book of physiology, that is Sambulingam. What are your thoughts on this?
See, there are two approaches on this one. If you want to top UT exam,
that is university exam,
exactly, MUHS one, which you get from the college, the theory exam,
or any other university which you are enrolled in.
Yes. And the next approach is, if you want to get through the MCQ exam that you have, for example NEET or NEXT or any other, that like PLEB, USMLE and all. So as for the UT university exam is concerned, we have to read both the books and mix it with them, take out the points, take out our own notes and then read through them. As for the USMLE and other MCQ exams are concerned, you should focus on the gold standard books more than the other bad mixed books. I personally think for first year you can use both of them, but second year onwards you should use the gold standard books more and more. is going to be good.
We can like take an excellent example. In first year when we are studying anatomy, we have books like Gray's, and then we have books like BDC Vishram Singh and all. So I think if you are reading Gray's, for example, I'm going to be a little technical here. Example, let's say you're reading the abdomen, and then you come across the inguinal region and the inguinal canal and all that, and then you read about hernias. So if you're reading Gray's anatomy, then you will also find images of laparoscopic importance. That's when an operation is conducted with a very minimal incision, and then you can find areas like areas of danger, area of triangle of death and triangle of doom and all of that. And that information, I think it is not given in BDC, because I've read both of the books very nicely. So again, if you are appearing for the university exam, nobody expects that you would know all of that, and not even I think a lot of people know that. But if you are appearing for an entrance exam or like an MCQ exam, that becomes an important point of view, because in the entrance exam they can actually ask you anything. They can ask you what are the boundaries of the triangle of doom or anything like that. So like he said, it is very nice if you are using both the books, but if you are using solely one book which is not a gold standard book, I think we both suggest that you upgrade. I know it will be difficult, but it is the right and correct approach to go. And from second year, I think we should upgrade it, because it makes a huge difference on what book you are reading and what kind of content you are putting, because second year the paraclinical and the clinical starts, and it is important to know a lot of things associated with. For example, let's take pathology. For example, we have the gold standard book
Robbins,
and then we have the not so gold standard book but an excellent book again,
Harsh Mohan.
So in Robbins, what happens is that it is difficult to read and easy to understand. That can be a bit tricky. So
you cannot retain much of the information of Robbins.
Yeah, but if you are reading Harsh Mohan, then it will be an easier approach for you.
It's easy to mug up.
It's easy to mug up and write, but then again you will not find the amount of detail that Robbins has given in Harsh Mohan. And if you are reading like any specific topic, I always say if you are reading topic wise, then just go to the best book that you can find on that topic.
Spoon feeding isn't always the best thing,
Yes, that's very correct. And the second question that arises from this mess is that how do we go about reading the gold standard books knowing that the points are not given, like everything is in a paragraph, and also all the important information is mixtured with the not so important information. So what is your approach on this?
That's where our own notes make a big difference. If you are solely using a gold standard books like Guyton or Robbins or Harrison or any other, take notes. You cannot read and revise from that big bulk of a book and so many complicated sentences and all. Take notes, make simpler line charts, diagrams and all. I think he has explained better in his videos.
Yeah, so do that, because revising becomes an essential part. And the thing about points being intercalated with not so important, like he said, it's a very nice thing to make notes. But what I also suggest is that if you feel like such a thing is happening, then just write a small question above the paragraph that you are reading. For example, you are reading, let's say, systemic lupus erythematosus. So in Robbins it is given in very detail, and then it might get confusing because there are no headings at all. It is all in a paragraph format. Every single thing, morphology and histology and everything, all of that is in a paragraph format. So what I usually do is I just write a small questions, like we can write what are the diagnostic tools that we have for SLE, like we can have Smith antigen and so on and so forth. Writing questions, taking notes. Just make sure that all the text that you have, which you feel is important and which is admixed with non-important information, you like filter it out and condense it in a form of a notebook which you can revise instantaneously, and that would really help a lot.
The gold standard books mold us young doctors for the future actual clinical cases and the patients we are going to face. So they are really important for us.
Yeah, and this brings me to my new point, that is I've seen a lot of you just read and keep on reading but don't correlate it with actual situations. For example, you can read something like thrombocytopenia or any hemolytic anemia, but then how will you reach to the diagnosis? Because the patient won't come and tell you, okay, I have a thrombocytic thrombocytopenic purpura. You will actually have to go and do the diagnosis, do the investigations and come at the diagnosis. So how will you do that? The only best way to learn is through solving cases, and this I'm preaching since 1 year that solving as many cases as you can will strengthen you in every single aspect. It will precondition you for everything. And I think the book which has the maximum cases, I highly suggest that. If you are going to read neurology, there's a book called as Snell's Neurology, Neuroanatomy and Neurophysiology. It has at least 50 cases per chapter, and I think if you are going to read neurology, read from that. Cases is very important, just don't ignore that. And of course, if you haven't started your clinical placements yet, you will in a year or maybe sooner. So like when we were on our medicine clinical placements, we saw a patient of mitral stenosis. It's a complication of the rheumatic fever, and that predisposes your heart to form a lot of thrombi in the left atrium. So for that reason, the patient was started on heparin, and I did not really read the chapter on anticoagulants back then. So that time was the first time I got to see a person getting a shot of heparin, and that time I found out that heparin is actually given subcutaneously. Now most of us know this after reading pharmacology, but I think that it stayed on with me before even I read it, and when I read it, I actually understood it much more nicely than I would have if I had just not paid attention. That's what you call going beyond.
Plus ultra.
That brings us to our next question.
How do we manage our time on different slices of our journey? For example, before exam, on weekends or others, to get maximum work done.
So what do you feel? How should we manage our time before the examinations start? Let's say the timetable has been displayed a month before the examination. If you're lucky and your college does allow you to see your timetable 1 month before the examination, or they can also drop it 3 days ago.
Exactly.
Yeah. So let's say कि अपने college में it has been displayed that in 1 month we have our examinations. So what is your approach on that?
So for the lucky ones who got their timetable 1 month before the exam, I think you should really plan it all. Say for example you have 30 days for the exam and you got say 4 subjects. Just divide the time required for each subject. Like for me personally, physiology was my strong hand on first year. I gave it less time and focused on anatomy, which was relatively weaker, just as for others.
Anatomy is the easiest subject and it's the best subject in the world. And I think planning is very important, because the subjects which you are weak at and the subjects which you haven't really covered a lot of portion yet, just make a plan and set a timer, set a goal that okay, I have been notified at 15th and I will complete whatever that is required till like 21 or 22nd. So you have enough time to complete a particular subject. Now what happens is that if you are reading one subject continuously for 6 to 7 days, we are definitely going to get bored of it. So I suggest that you mix it with other subjects. For example, in the morning if you're studying physiology, or maybe you're studying pathology, in the evening you say, let's say, study medicine or anatomy, whichever you feel is it more, which you know better.
In the last few days before the exam, the most important and the most lethal weapon you got is your notes. Read through them, go through them, revise them, mug them up. I don't know, whatever you do with them.
You can also rewrite them if you have the time.
I don't think they have the time.
Okay.
So the notes are very important just before the exam, because when you go and sit on the table, you see your paper and you start writing. You might not remember the book or the exact wordings, but you'll remember that acha, there was a note about it. I drew a tree diagram. I wrote something about it, scribbled somewhere.
On the left page, on the lower side.
Maybe saw a meme about it. You can write it on. You remember stuff like that.
Also before the examinations, don't read everything. Read your notes like he said. But also read the important topics which are popular in your college, because those are the things which all the seniors and all the people above your ears have given the papers about, and most likely that is what your paper is going to be all about if you are lucky. But if you are unlucky, it can come from anywhere. So that's when the part of chronic suffering comes in, because you might have read that topic somewhere in the past and it might click you or it may not. So anyway, just read through the important topics first and then go diffusely over to the less important topics. And if you can make it up to 100% of reading the entire subject, that is the excellent thing, because then you have a very strong hold on MCQs. I know a lot of people are watching this video from a different country, and I know from sure that a lot of you guys have only MCQ exams, because you message me all the time. For MCQ exams, just read the gold standard books, revise them, make your notes. You can also solve cases and also the MCQ books which are recommended in my previous video.
For the not so lucky ones who got their timetable 3 days ago, or for the ones who don't like chronic suffering, believe in history and go for the IMPs.
That's correct. Just go for the IMPs, and more or less you are on the same level as everybody else is. Unless everybody else is a chronic sufferer, then you are doomed.
All the best.
Yeah, and the second part of the question is how do we manage our time on the weekends? Now I think this guy doesn't really have any sort of weekends, but once there was a time he really had weekends. Now he goes to
Let's not go to the chronic suffering, please.
Okay, so I think I'm gonna answer this question.
Yes.
Weekends are the sharpest of weapons in your arsenal. It will give you 48 hours of entirely, if it's a second Saturday and a Sunday, you will get 48 hours to yourself, and like imagine what you can do in 48 hours. Make a timetable before the weekend starts. Just make sure that you have the topics listed out at least. Like I usually do, like I have to do this part or this part. CNS I have to do opioid analgesics, or I have to do general anesthesia, local anesthesia. All the topics, if you have listed it, make a checklist and make sure you stick to that. Find the motivation and try and strive the best to complete all of that before your weekend runs out. And if you find a spare time in your weekend, complete your manuals. We can really understand from this guy, he has all of his manuals are always complete, unlike me. PSM submit karna. Plan out your weekends.
Go out with your girlfriend.
And when you have vacations, instead of wasting every single one of your days just doing nothing, study a bit. It will really help you in future. The next question is one of the most important that we have here, and I think every one of us should have the answer to this one. In life, no one is perfect.
We are all humans and we are bound to have failures.
They don't always necessarily mean scoring less than 50% according to our guidelines.
But they also mean scoring less than what you had on your goal.
For example, let's say that you had a vision of scoring 80%, but you get 70%. That's not a failure on the numerical aspect.
But that's a failure on motivational aspect.
Yeah. How do we cope up with that? Because it's not always that we reach the target that we want to. So how do we pick ourselves up from this one?
Failure is a part of our life. And all that mess that a lot of people tell you, I'm going to tell you how to cope with it. First things first, failure gets converted into sadness, gets converted into grief, and that gets converted into anger, which you vent out on your friends, your peers, your families and others. If you feel like failure or depressed or sad, don't vent it on people. Go and take some sleep. As per the scientific knowledge, I approach him.
Well, on the scientific basis, I don't really know much, but I do really know on a day-to-day basis, because we face this every single time. Because one of the ways to be productive is to set unrealistic goals, and obviously not all of them will be accomplished. What I usually do is I come home, I motivate myself that it's not that you have lost a fight. And it's okay if you are not always first and not always second, or maybe not always in the top 10 also. The important thing to take here is that you just focus on whatever knowledge that you have gained in the process of this, and just remember that if you have lost motivation, then take a little bit of break from everything.
Get some sleep.
Get some rest, and I'm sure everything will be back to normal. Talk to friends, hang out with them. And
this is where your friend circle matters the most.
Yes, if they are really supportive and they are your true friends, they will always support you in everything. Even if you fail, thank you. Even if you fail a certain subject, if your friends are good, they will support you. They will try their best to bring you out of that. And I think a lot of people will relate to this, because the people who come searching for YouTube for videos on anatomy or physiology, I like to think that they are really interested in that. But if you are interested in your studies like this, then I know a little bit of failure will also bring you down. So don't let that bring you down. Let me tell you, marks don't matter that much in real life. What matters is how much you know about that subject and how much you know about whatever that is given in the text. Marks will be subjective. Just focus on the information. like Rancho used to say, he's like, सक्सेस के पीछे मत, मार्क्स के पीछे मत भागो, इंफॉर्मेशन और नॉलेज के पीछे भागो, तो सक्सेस अपने आप तुम्हारे पास आ जाएगा. दैट इज़ व्हाट आई एम ट्राइंग टू इम्प्लाई एंड दैट इज़ सो रियलिस्टिक. आई होप everyone who has ever felt this way, lift yourself up. You are one of the best things on the planet, and I'm sure you will tide through this.
If you ever feel down, go to your friends, talk to your family, have a hobby.
Have a hobby. That really changes everything.
Just like he has a hobby of making a lot of videos
or playing the guitar. And I think it really helps a lot, because if you have nothing, if you have no one at the particular point, for example, if you are living in the hostel and the friends and the people around you have passed the exam and you haven't, I know you may feel bad. Take up that hobby of, let's say, playing the guitar or playing an instrument, and I think you will feel better.
Let's get to the next question. Every person in the college wants some PG degree. Speaking of which, how do you guys prepare for the entrances? Is it necessary to join tuition classes for scoring higher? Are there any free or cheap solutions we can use? Well, what do you say?
Well, I think that self-study is the best, and it is, I think, the only thing which will tide through all of your, weaknesses. What different institutions and what different organizations are doing are helping you to do better self-study. And all of us who have cracked NEET in the first place in the UG know that we haven't really done that because of some organization or institution that is hovering above us. It is because that we ourselves sat and studied for a long time, and that is the reason that we got selected. And I think self-study is the only way to go, because I have seen people who don't have any resources, they just have books, and some people who are so poor that they can't afford anything, and yet they score such brilliantly in entrances and solve such nice MCQs and end up to be some great doctors. So I think self-study is more important than having anything hanging over your head that is motivating to you study. But obviously, if you have such a resource, it would definitely benefit you. Well, speaking on this topic, there are a lot of institutions which we are not supposed to name here.
So we are going to divide it into two approaches.
Two basic approaches.
The face-to-face classes and the online classes.
Yes, the face-to-face are the ones where you interact directly with the teacher. You sit in a classroom for a particular duration of time and they teach you a particular topic. And they take a test maybe, or there is a satellite something. And there is something as the online thing. So in the online thing, you have resources, or like question banks, video lectures and all of that, grand tests, and you can solve them according to your time and whatever you like. Some cheap sources and some effective sources, like the question says free and cheap sources. I'm not sure the free sources, but I'm sure YouTube has a lot of teachers who are teaching stuff. One of them is from our college, Dr. Rajesh Jamulkar. Subscribe to him if you haven't already. And then we have cheap sources like I think you can join Dr. Najib's lectures for like $5, and that is very affordable because we spend that much on anything in community actually. So Dr. Najib lecture is one of the best things that I took. I think you also have subscribed to this. So the lectures are very detailed and they provide a lot of conceptual ways to approach this.
The fact is, face to face or online or any other approach, in the end all that will matter is the self-study, the revisions, the practice and the cases you'll do. That's what's going to become the most of what you are doing. Exactly.
So that brings us to our next question.
What's the deal with NEET and NEXT? What are the similarities and differences? Well, as for that matter, first thing you should know is that the future is going to be next, literally and figuratively.
And I think a lot of things have changed from NEET and next. That is, in next the entire pattern of examination is changed.
Yes, pattern is changed.
Obviously the pattern is changed. I am not really here to explain all of that. You can check that out on different videos, but basically we'll have 3 days of examination in next one and just practical examination in next one. You need to qualify both of them to get a license, and also the next one rank will determine what is your all India rank and what PGCT you will be getting. So actually we don't have such a definitive answer from which batch it will start or what is all of that, but we all know that the only thing that is going to matter is how much you have studied till now.
So brace yourself.
Brace yourselves.
So the next question we have is,
what are your patterns for revision and smart study methods? I actually made a big video about it. You can go check it out up there. But let me summarize a bit for you. There's something called as spatial memory, additive spatial memory. So basically, one of the smart study methods that I use all the time is that I link whatever I need to know with a motion or a dance like thing, so that you can remember this thing and then remember what is the original content. Another very important thing is mnemonics. For example, you want to know what is the class 1 anti-diabetic drugs. So an example would be a car Bose. So for that I made it like there's a car which has a Bose speaker, and there's thousands of mnemonic for everything. You can find them. For example, Marfan syndrome, there's a mnemonic for MARFA, and so like we have mitral stenosis, acrodentality, and then we have a lot of things in that.
The weirder they are, the longer you'll remember.
Yes, the weirder they are, the longest you will remember them.
So as for the revision and smart study methods, just go through your notes, your spatial memory, your mnemonics, and every arsenal, every weapon you got. YouTube videos as well.
Yes. Subscribe to Anuj Pachhel. Okay, we just have 2 more questions left. There's always many sides to a person. That is, one being personal, another being like a student or a professional. How do we balance all of this? Because I have a lot of people asking me, how do you balance your life,
relationships, hobbies,
with your college and examinations and all of that? Well, the thing I answer to them is that gradually with time we get adjusted. Obviously we can't give up on our hobbies and everything related to us. We'll just have to fit in a smaller bit of time. And what are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a game of balance, and the frequency, the adjustments, the minor screw, the major screw, everything.
And also touching a bit on relationships here, I know a lot of people. Also touching a bit on relationships here, because I know a lot of you are in a relationship, and one advice I have for you guys is a lot of things depend on what kind of person you are with. If you are with a person who is pulling you down constantly, then I don't think it is really nice for you and for them as well. And it is excellent if a person is pushing you ahead from what you should be. So I think if you are going to be in a relationship, feel free, because this is the time that all of us are told कि 12th के बाद तो फिर मजे है कॉलेज में. तो
don't sacrifice everything for M.B.B.S.
Yes, don't sacrifice everything for M.B.B.S. Feel free to do whatever you want to do, but also maintain, like I said, it's a game of balance. So do that.
As for the last question, what would you be?
Now this is a nice question, okay? So for the last question, it is a fun question. So you might as well exit the video right now or stay with us. And if you have stayed with us, please give this video a like. Coming to the last question of this entire questionnaire.
What would you be if you are not gonna become a doctor? Anuj?
He already knows the answer to my question, and it is so strikingly similar that we think the same way. 3, 2, 1. Astrophysics. Like totally, astrophysics is the way to go. I mean, if you're not helping people, then you should send people away to space.
Or go ourselves.
Or go yourselves. That would be an astronaut.
So, Anuj, why astrophysicist?
Well, obviously, because you can have tea on Mars sitting on a table. Well, if you have stayed with us for so long, I highly appreciate. You're a true genius. If you feel like a lot of questions have not been covered here, or if you feel like there are different answers to the question which we answered right here, then feel free to comment on it. and thank you for all your support. Literally, you guys have changed my life around. Hey everyone, if you enjoyed this video, let me introduce you the person who introduced me today. This is Radhika Shivalkar, another one of my great friends, and she's also amazing.
So friends, if you enjoyed this video, hit the like button. Thank you so much.
Consider subscribing.
Consider subscribing.
Until next time, stay happy, stay healthy. See you soon.
मार्स पे चाय ठंडी होगी क्या?
मार्स पे चाय ठंडी हो सकती है, होगी ही. वहाँ का एवरेज टेम्परेचर इतना कम होता है.
We should really study astrophysics.
To astrophysics. Subscribe to Anuj Pachhel.